Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shinesparkers podcast. I'm Amanda Van Heil. I'll be your host, and I'm joined by Darren, our creative director, and Roy, our deputy creative director. And we also have a very special guest. Kabutroid, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey there, I'm Kabutroid. I make the comic strip Planet Zebeth, which ran for 17 years. It ended. Then, like a year and change later, I literally 3-4 days ago just got it started up again, so we're just starting the next storyline right now. It's kind of cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. So, to begin with, how did you come up with Planet Zebeth?
Well, way back in the day, I was basically a big Metroid fan, of course, and just kind of being creative type, it's like, I want to make a story about Metroid. And you have this old, was it a 486 that I was working on back then? And yeah, so I basically collected sprites from the comic and started throwing them onto the screen, and I came up with kind of like vague plot points of where I want to hit down the road, but I just wanted to tell a story about Metroid. Oh, the main thing. So this was the age of sprite comics, and there was, sprite comics everywhere. But there's very, very few Metroid ones. There's like maybe 2. There's a whole pile of Mario ones. There was some Sonic ones. But I was like, man, there needs to be more Metroid comic strips. So I went and did it.
And thank goodness you did. I remember fondly checking the internet back in the mid 2000s and coming across this, and I think I must have been looking at the Metroid database forums or something, and I'm sure that's where I saw it. And I just couldn't believe that it had been going as long as it had been. And that's there isn't many things in the Metroid fan community that have lasted that long. I mean, we've just celebrated our 10th year, and that feels like an age, but even that predates that. And it's crazy to me that something could last that long. So well done to you. That's fantastic. I'm sure there's actually a lot of people, especially newer fans, that haven't even heard of this.
I'm kind of hoping that it spreads out a little bit now. If 8-bit comes back or anything, new people discover it. That's kind of what I want.
Yeah. How would you describe that to people? If people was checking out your comic for the first time and they were starting from the very first page, how would you introduce it? How would you...
Well, basically, it's based on the old Nintendo game Metroid, if you've played that. It happens right after Samus kills Kraid, and then poof, they're just kind of teleported to this other planet here, an emulator technically. And then it's like, oh, what the heck just happened? Let's go run off and do our own thing. It's just an entirely new storyline based on we're all teleported to this new place and everything is different. Let's go do something.
And this is run for how many episodes now? Or how many stories?
It is 1,305 comics long, all in one giant storyline.
Oh, is that all? No, I'm joking. That's ridiculous amount. That's huge. That's massive.
Way back in the day, wow. I was my goal was to hit 100. Then I got 100, and it's okay, I make a milestone every 100 or so, and 500. Oh, this is kind of cool. Right? Are we gonna? Yeah, we're definitely hitting 1,000. Let's just wait for the hundreds to roll by.
Yeah, that is incredible. That's fantastic. So to have that many, what would you say is your favorite storyline from the comic, and which ones are you most proud of?
The Trabnagians, the random Trabnagian tribe where they just kind of, Samus and Kraid were wandering off across the really, really hot lava area. They came across this tribe of minions that have ridiculously long names, and the whole foibles there. That was my favorite part, is the Trabnagians.
At one point, there was a storyline based on Metroid 2, and it had a humorous take on Samus's mission to SR388, or ZR388.
Yeah, ZR388.
Have you been tempted to spoof the stories of other Metroid games in a similar way?
Only vaguely, because it would kind of have to be 8-bit sprites. You can mix 8 and 16-bit, but it's pretty sketchy, so I'm honestly not sure what would work with 8-bit sprites, because I don't see the site changing from 8-bit, so... Zero Mission? Maybe Zero Mission? Oh wait, that's basically the same as Metroid 1. Fusion?
Because I'm just picturing you doing a take on Other M, and for all the fan criticism of how Samus was characterized, just how you might spoof that with the...
That's not bad. That's not bad. Samus is pretty abrasive here. I could see that working well.
Just imagining this version of Samus where she's a violent psychopath who only wants booze is hilarious.
And items.
And items, yes.
You should do an episode on lockdown, like where they have to stay 2 inches apart or something on a comic or something like that, and how they cope with the current pandemic.
They're all locked in the bar. I like it.
That's going to be very difficult for them to stay socially distant, isn't it?
And Kraid, just Kraid.
I think it would be easier for Samus to distance herself from Kraid. I think it would be hard for Kraid to distance himself from Samus.
Well, they do have the Pog room, so one of them could always lock themselves in the Pog room. There's the dishwashing. There's a few rooms in the bar, so technically it could work.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the Pog room, then.
I guess that came about when, the bar was originally just one room, and then I needed, a place to have, other various minor plot points, where do they store the booze and stuff. So, alright, we're gonna make, 6 different rooms here of whatever. One room has actually never been shown. There's one door that has never been shown.
Even after all these comics, there's still a room that hasn't been shown.
Yeah, in Ridley's bar.
Will we see it someday? Will we see it in a future comic?
Almost certainly.
Ah.
Almost certainly. But yeah, the Pog room, it was basically that was way back when they were okay, we need a currency form, we need a form of money. Well, what are we going to do? Let's just pop the inside out of these health points. There we go, and now for whatever reason, we can pick these up and not absorb them. Yay! So the rings are the money, and the Pogs, we just got a whole spare pile of these, throw them all in that room, and then Kraid started playing with them.
So from what I heard, because I was speaking with Roy about this yesterday before we started recording, now, Kraid has a collection of Pogs, if I remember correctly, and he's got a certain number of them, and he has a name for every single one, and each one has its own backstory. Is that correct?
Yeah, first name, last name, backstory. And he was distraught when that one was broken in half. Oh, Samantha.
I remember that being one of my absolute favorite comics of all time.
Samantha.
It sounds a bit crazy. Things get a bit crazy in this bar.
Oh, Kraid's a bit crazy.
I also like how the comic, because Metroid is a very serious franchise. There isn't much. There might be a few funny moments here and there, but overall, it's not, Kid Icarus or Mario type of humor. So I like that the comic kind of adds in that humor and makes it more mature, because Metroid is also more of a mature franchise.
Mainly just because I needed to put swearing in, I couldn't convey the emotion that these characters are feeling without an expletive, so it kind of had to reach expletive status.
Yeah.
I just want to add quickly, because I'm not sure if Amanda has heard of this comic before, if she's looked into this comic in any way over the years.
I have looked into it. I'm very new to it. But it humanizes everybody, and I like that, because when things are so super serious, it's hard to really relate to it. And when you humanize a character and you realize that, hey, people are going to be saying some swear words, and they're not going to just be completely people aren't going to be completely stoic all the time. I mean, some people are, but I'll keep my mouth shut on that. Elias.
Shots fired.
He prides himself on being stoic all the time. But it just makes it more understandable, more relatable, and if anything, it might make people want to play the games more, because they're these people do have, or not necessarily people, obviously, these characters have actual personalities, and they're not just little things that shoot stuff. And I just think that's really neat.
It's great, because most of these characters are quite mute in Metroid. There's not much dialogue at all, if any. So it's great to actually add some character and sort of put your own take on what these characters are like, their personalities, their interactions with other people. I thought it was very fun. I hope that people jumping into the comic for the first time find some entertainment from that.
While I was perusing the bonus section of your website, I noticed that you've also used the site to document your other activities. Before we started, you mentioned that you're doing some carving, also some chainmail. So have you been doing a lot more of that during this lockdown? And what's your favorite of those activities?
Well, it's not so much related to lockdown than more so the fact that I haven't had a working computer. But because I live in a small town, and literally there was not a single case of COVID here until literally a week or so ago. So things are a little bit kind of crazy in town right now, but otherwise it hasn't really been so much COVID. Also the fact that I'm really introverted, and if I do go out, it's into the middle of the swamp in the middle of nowhere here, so there's no humans within a mile of me type of thing. But yeah, actually that's what I've been doing a lot of the time during lockdown, is just the outdoors, or since coming to this town. And as for the random side activities that I've been doing, mainly while the computer has been non-working, is, like you said, chainmail. I've made a lot of dragons, but that's actually slowed down to save money on just supplies and buying rings and everything, and branches are free. And I live in a forest. So I love making staves, 6-foot-tall, Gandalf-style staves. So I've got a dozen of those in my house right now, some carved, some uncarved. Then we've got painting down some of them, and yeah, carving has really been the thing that's been kicking me into gear these days.
So I just want to ask as well, what's the future of the comic now that it's kind of reached the end of its story? Will there be a whole new adventure, or has it really come to a close?
Yeah, we are starting a whole new adventure right now. That was actually kind of the plan right from the get-go. So it ended a few years, the first storyline ended a few years ago, or a year and a half ago. And then, computer problems, etc. And, it had to continue. Mother Brain was asleep, mostly uploaded. Yeah, you gotta do something with that. Yeah, now it's, a year later, so, all of the crops are done. Everything is kind of settled with them. Samus isn't gonna be searching for items anymore, because her entire point of collecting items was to kill Mother Brain. And as of present, they think that's happened.
I'm just glad to see that it's going to continue. I think after all these years, it would be a shame to see it end.
All right, so question for the three of you. What were your favorite storylines from Planet Zebeth?
Kabutroid, you mentioned the Trabnagian tribe earlier, and that is my favorite storyline of all time. Just so for context for anyone, Samus and Kraid happen upon this tribe of enemies that, as you said, have these very, very long, ridiculously long names. Samus is a very violent psychopath, and so she gets driven insane by all of the names. Kraid is trying to reassure everyone, "Oh, it's fine. she's doing all right." Meanwhile, she's running back to them. Her smoke is coming out of her ears, pretty much. She shoots one of them. "You, blue thing, what's your name?" It's "You, puke-colored thing, what's your name?" I would rather not answer that. "You may live. You, big-eyed, greenish, ugly thing, what's your name?" Alicia Car. "Oh my god, you killed Alicia Carmen. Oh my god, you killed Simon Bell. Oh my god, you..." How about I just leave it at, "Oh my god. Good thinking, Lucy Vaughn. That was stupid, Jacob." And that goes on for an hour. Kraid is trying to escape with some of the surviving tribal members. He's throwing objects to distract Samus, who's blowing the crap out of this wall. So she's going, "Ah! Wait. Movement! Die!"
if you ever decide to voice this comic in any way, please give Roy a role, because he just explained that so well. It's really entertaining to listen to. Like, I just want to go read that comic now.
Thank you. I am interested in being a voice actor.
There we go. That's your first gig.
Well, we'll have to get this Planet Zebeth sprite movie together, and I have to voice someone.
There's a few people that have actually made little mini videos on YouTube of, like, say, 10, 15 comics. It's kind of cool.
Nice.
Well, for me, I don't know exactly. I think it sort of spans over a few of the very early comics, but I know there's one where Samus and Kraid go. I think it's Kraid anyway. Just have a drink of Jack Daniels, or they're going for a drink of Jack Daniels, and they stumble into Kraid's lair and kill fake Kraid, and then just go out again or something because Kraid left his post. I thought that was quite funny.
I love that because Samus would totally drink Jack Daniels. That would totally.
Well, it's my favorite drink.
Should absolutely be a whiskey drinker.
Yeah.
Well, after all the crap she's been through, you need the strongest stuff possible.
Yeah, fair.
Fair.
Yeah, she is living with Kraid, around Kraid.
Oh, yes, that would make you drink.
Well, like I said earlier, the Trabnagian Tribe is my favorite series, and I've narrowed it down to my very favorite comic itself, and that's comic 695, where Kraid literally, like, dogpiles onto the, like, pile of food in the Tragnabian area there. So yeah, where he just, like, leaps onto the, like, mound of food and just starts eating. Then, like, the next comic or so, like, everyone's like, that was a good meal and stuff, or Kraid's like, that was a good meal and stuff. Everyone else is like, but I didn't get enough to eat. Shh, no one did. We'll have another one later.
And that one was, like, a little bit before Samus just goes berserk. Starts killing everyone. I think maybe that was triggered by her eating this bush.
Yeah, the dry, scraggly bush.
Yeah, and as someone who hates vegetables with a passion, I definitely understand that.
Oh, like, I've got it open right now and I'm laughing just looking at it.
Amanda, do you have any thoughts on the comic that you'd like to share?
I think it's so much fun. I think it's a great way for Metroid fans, like even new Metroid fans, just to kind of get to know the characters in a new way and just enjoy it and not take it too seriously. And I think that's great.
I think it's probably one of the very first fan-created projects of any kind, really, for Metroid on the internet. It's historical, and it's just great to see that something like that has continued all this time. I'm a big fan of preserving things like that, and there was a point that it was offline, and I was just hoping that we could, see it again one day. And so, yeah, I'm just pleased that it's still around, and I hope that people will give it a chance. If you've got a fan out there that likes sprite comics, like you said earlier, there's a resurgence in sprite games and things like that. So maybe people will go back and look at this comic and look at what you've created. And I hope they do, because it's very, very humorous and very fun.
Yeah, I think this might actually be the first Metroid comic that involved, like, the mini-bosses being friends with Samus. Like, Samus and Kraid and Ridley being friends with each other. I think this might be the first time that happened.
I think it's a rarity, isn't it, in any case, for Samus to be involved and have any kind of relationship with any of the creatures and bosses from Metroid. Adds a bit of uniqueness, for sure.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Shinesparkers podcast. If you have any questions you'd like to ask for us for the next episode, be sure to do so. You can tag us on Twitter and let us know if there's anything you want us to answer. And Kabutroid, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to find you or your projects or anything else you're working on, where can people find you?
As always, it's zebeth.ca. Or, just for an easier way to get to the links to, like, my Instagram and everything, katielynn.com, KATIELYNNE.com, like, that's my actual name. Yeah, that's basically got kind of links to my primary, like, social medias. So yeah, one of those two is basically the best way to hit me up.
Great! Well, thank you again for joining us, and thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next mission.
See you next mission.
See you next mission.
See you next mission.
I just heard my cat meowing. Hopefully,
as far
that's
as
not
claps
being
go, I
picked
think
up.
that's about an 8.5 out of 10.
Good.
Oh. That's pretty high up.
That's not bad.
Good.
That's not bad. Last time it was about a 7.5. This is a good one.
Alrighty.
We were also looking at, I think for a while you were trying various different food combos, which looked revolting, and I will take you to task on them. Cheese Whiz and Eggos, what were you thinking?
That was probably more just two random objects that I found, but I like cheese, I like Eggos. Let's see if they go to... If I recall, it wasn't bad.
11 is going to take you to task for that.
All right, so question for all three of you. What is your favorite of all of the comics in the Planet set? Sorry, I just got like super congested all of a sudden. I'm okay. Allergies. This is my allergy season.
I feel you.
It's probably something to do with the concussion she had, but...
The concussion she had,
there we go. It was that concussion I had.
like a year ago now.
A year ago. It was still the concussion. I don't remember, so it was a concussion. So
I mean,
there we go.
concussions can be pre-existing conditions.
That's true.
There we go.
And maybe the concussion like messed up that one part of my brain that causes me to get congested. That right there is it. That's it right there.
This podcast was edited by Stefan Wells, with music by Maserati. If you enjoy the podcast, please consider checking out our social media pages on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For the latest Metroid news, community features, and exclusive content, check out the website at shinesparkers.net. See you next mission.